Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. In today's video, I would like to talk about Brian Baldinger's recent comments about wide receiver Drake London. But if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when I've done Atlanta Falcons content or NFL content. If you'd like to follow your boy on Twitter and Instagram, you can follow me at Jew Talk Sports. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can donate to my Cash App, which is the $ Jew Talk Sports. If you'd like to be a part of my Jew Talk Sports membership, you can hit that join tab here on the channel as well. But with that being said, let's jump right into the video. So as I mentioned in today's video, I do want to give my thoughts on Brian Baldinger's recent comments about wide receiver Drake London. Brian Baldinger, who covers the NFL, was recently at Atlanta Falcons training camp this week, and he sat down with some of the Atlanta Falcons writers and basically stated that he believes that Drake London is an elite wide receiver in today's NFL. He did state that he thinks Drake London could be one of the most targeted wide receiver in today's or in this upcoming season. He did also mention that he feels like Michael Penix Jr. was able to create some chemistry at the end of last season with Michael Penix starting the last 3 games. He saw those guys to begin to gel and create that chemistry, and those guys have been working this offseason and at training camp. And we started to see them develop that quarterback #1 wide receiver relationship and things of that nature. And he did state that he believes Drake London is one of those guys that's on the rise. He is going to possibly be one of those top 5 type wide receivers. I believe at this point, Drake London is considered a top 10 wide receiver in the game. He was one of those guys coming out of USC. That was one of my favorite prospects to cover because of his ability to go up and high point the ball. When I watched his highlights and his film at USC, he put me in the mind of Megatron, the former Detroit Lions wide receiver, because of his ability to go up over 1 or 2 defenders and just pluck the ball out the air. With Drake London being 6'4", about 215, 220 pounds. He's not the fastest guy, but he is one of those guys that's always open. As Brian Baldinger mentioned when he sat down with the Atlanta Falcons, he basically stated that, he's not the quickest guy, but if you put the ball up in the air, he's going to be able to make a play on it. And Drake London has very strong hands. He rarely drops the ball, and he's a better route runner than you think. I think Drake London has gotten a lot better since he's came into the league at running different styles of routes. We've seen him run really good routes against the Philadelphia Eagles when he had that touchdown at the end of the game where he was able to fool Darius Slay and come up with the game-winning touchdown thrown by Kirk Cousins in that Monday Night Football game last season. And he showed us numerous times on those dig routes and a lot of the different routes that he runs, even when they put him in the slot, he's able to get open and use his big frame, to go up and pluck the ball out the air. So I really feel like Drake London is one of those guys that's ascending. I do think that he'll be considered a top 5 wide receiver possibly after this season. If he goes out there and has another 1,000+ yard receiving season and multiple touchdowns, I could really see his touchdowns going up this year playing alongside Michael Penix, because Michael Penix is going to give him opportunities in the red zone and down the field as far as putting the ball up and letting him make a play on the ball. But I definitely think that Brian Baldinger is on to something. He is one of those guys, when he talks, I listen, because Brian Baldinger is a former NFL offensive lineman, played with the Colts, and he's one of those guys that's been covering the NFL for many, many years. So I really think that Brian Baldinger is on to something when he talks about Drake London and Michael Penix. Brian Baldinger was one of those guys prior to the Atlanta Falcons drafting Michael Penix that mentioned that he thought the Falcons was going to draft Michael Penix. So he was on to that before anybody else in the media that I saw stating that the Falcons could go after Michael Penix in the draft. And sure enough, the Falcons drafted Michael Penix maybe a couple days after Brian Baldinger had made his video stating that he thought the Falcons could possibly surprise everybody and draft Michael Penix. So with that being said, you guys give me your thoughts on Drake London. Do you believe he's an elite wide receiver in today's NFL? I definitely think that Drake London is one of those guys that's an elite talent, one of those guys that can do special things, and he still has a high ceiling. I don't think that Drake London has reached his prime or his peak. I definitely think that he's going to get a huge contract at some point from our Atlanta Falcons. But I really love Drake London's competitiveness, his leadership. He's one of those guys that has taken his game to that next level. We've seen in training camp that he's one of those guys that's taken on a leadership role for this Atlanta Falcons team, and guys follow him because of his competitiveness and the way that he goes about his business as far as being a professional, and also being one of those guys that's not afraid to mix it up as far as in the trenches. He's not a guy that's afraid to block, and his teammates rave about him, doing the dirty work, not only being one of those guys that is one of the better wide receivers at catching the football, but he's also a guy that'll go in there and block down on the defensive end. He's one of those guys that's going to take on safeties and cornerbacks to spring his running backs or spring his teammates open for more yardage in open field. So with that being said, I have a lot more content coming for you guys. If you enjoy my content, make sure you hit that subscribe button for your boy. Make sure you hit that like button. I have a lot more content coming for you guys. But as always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed. Peace.